Hello, YouTubers. I am back with the Mustang again. No, it's been a while since I shot a video, but left the mechanic world, entered the mechanic world, you can call it. So I now have time to work on my car again. I don't have to tell you what we're looking at. It's a 65 Mustang, 64 and a half. Well, you guys are going to say coupes with stripes, it's not real. Well, this is not a real car. It's a 351 instead of a GT 350. Because I really have a 351 as opposed to a 289 and a 350. So before my Mustang purists come out there and roast me to death. GTC 351, GT coupe. And yes, they did make coupe cars that were Trans Am race cars. They were Group 2 cars. And it was raced in the 60s by AJ Foyt. Look it up. Hope all's well out there in YouTube land. We're going to shoot some video about the new build. He said this is a 65 Mustang. It has a shaved dash. I mean, shaved dash is basically a Falcon dashboard in this car. Because in the 64, I guess 65 too. They just never took one apart to tell you. But it basically is a Falcon dash. Under all the padding, the Abro safety shit is the Falcon dash. So that's basically an R model dash. This is built to be an R model car. So it's got the 10, 11 inch station wagon brakes, just like they did in the rear. And roll bars. Kelsey and Hayes. 4 piston calipers up front. Not like you could see those. But just give you a little rundown. It's a car, is electronically powered now by Holley Terminator X system. And sits in the glove box over there. I'll show you that later. It's a 351 Windsor engine, Windsor base block, I should say. And what you're looking at is probably the reason why you looked on this channel. This is an individual throttle bodied stroke 393 cubic inch, I said 69 base Windsor block with trick flow heads, scat crank and H-beam steel rods with twisted wedge pistons in it, which were made by Aries, so they're Aries pistons in it. It's got a crane roller cam. I think it's 550. I forget. I went through so many cams in this car, but we'll just say it's 550 inch lift, which really don't matter because it's turboed. Yeah, like I said, it's controlled by Holley Terminator X. It's an ITB, individual throttle bodied, which twin turbo. Turbos are mounted in the rear of the car. And we have inboard fuel injectors. In the back is our balance tube. These are the plates here that go into pressure. And they are how you can boost an ITB, which is pretty much what I designed in this game. I needed the hood. I ran the Holley Terminator X in here, and the high ram manifold. And the thing ran great with 100mm throttle body and 83-pound injectors, I'll say. Both of these motors are using the dual sync distributors from Holley, which I don't have one here. I could show you. Hey, my toolbox. It's funny to see it in my garage. Like I said, I'm not a mechanic anymore, and I was hired at an aluminum plant. This here is my shop, boys. Maybe we'll get a picture of me when I put this down to show you some more about the car. But keep you involved. We're gonna have a bunch of stuff now. I'm gonna start shooting YouTube videos again like I used to. We got the Top Kart race go-kart there. We got the Invader go-kart back there and a bunch of other mini bikes and stuff that I build. So if you're interested in doing that stuff, you wanna sit down with a beer for a couple minutes, you might enjoy this. So let's get back to this Frankenstein, and that's what I call it. So I had, like I said, I had the high ram on here, and the problem with the high ram ended up being I couldn't have a hood on the car, which didn't really matter because my car looked like Street Outlaw, so it was pretty cool. But I wanted the hood on the car. It was the, before, if you look at my videos before this car was carbureted with twin turbos. So the hood was on, and because I want to switch to fuel injection, I could have just done, you just keep going. But the reality is, I wanted ITBs, individual throttle bodies. So it looked old school. When you looked at it, it looked like something you could have built in your garage back in the 60s, where in reality, this is something you could have built in your garage in the 60s. This is nothing you would have seen in a Trans Am car, maybe a Formula One car back in the day. But that's where my love for cars lies, in the old Can-Am, Trans Am, drag cars of the 60s and 70s. So hence what you're looking at here. Now, why wouldn't I just put straight tubes there with a throttle plate on the back of each one, and it would have been the end of the discussion? Set of injectors in each tube would have been real easy to tune and all that. I don't know, because I wanted individual throttle bodies because no one had done it before. So these are just an aftermarket throttle body. I needed throttle bodies that had 4 bolt holes on the top so I can make these plates up and screw the top plenums down. I'm calling them plenums, but they're never under vacuum. This thing only sees boost. Everybody, you'd think that you'd have a restriction, but you don't. It only sees boost. I needed to make the custom plates on the bottom and the tops. Like I said, these are IDA Weber 50 millimeter throttle body. I can't say Weber because it's not Weber, but if you were to have dual Weber carburetors, these are kind of what the plates are. On the bottom of that manifold is not a Chinese, it is a Blue Thunder American made 351 Windsor Weber IDA 50 millimeter manifold. So it was not a cheap piece, but to do this correctly, I felt a lot better, spending a little more. And the Blue Thunder stuff, I can't say enough about it because it just works. If I want to say who I'm sponsored by on this video here, it should take all about 1 second. No one. All right. Everything you see here is pretty much built in here, Like I said, 393 cubic inch trick flow heads, 30 over stock block. That's all been done and clearanced and, all cleaned up on the inside. But let's get back to running this. Got away from myself on that one, so let's go back here. We got running Holley Terminator X because we are running, individual fuel injection. In other words, not sequential to where, we're firing 2 banks at one time, or sequential is, it's not bank to bank, it's sequential injection. Excuse me on that one. You need to have a dual sync distributor. Dual sync meaning that it's referencing a cam and a crank sensor at the same time, so it has sync. These Holley MSD made, but Holley distributors will do that. Now, for the high ram, you have to use a custom low profile distributor. It only works with that manifold. So I had to go out and buy another dual sync distributor from Holley to make this work. The injectors are 85-pound Bosch injectors sitting in here. I want to show you. You got your fuel lines here. Like I said, the center of this, which you can't even see, I wish I could get you down there, is a bell crank where I made a lower pull that pulls both sides to open the throttle bodies. And I'm going to put this thing down because what we're going to do here is got my old Snap-on greatness. And that's one thing, when I stopped being a car mechanic working on Porsches and pulling transits out of 911s and working on old cars, which I specialized in, but my real specialty was electronic troubleshooting, which thank God I don't do anymore. A nightmare. I more enjoy tuning cars. So me getting into tuning is a completely different game with the Holley, because I've been working on Jaguars with multiple carburetors and 911s with multiple carburetors and, Chevys and Fords and Dodges with multiple carburetors my whole life. Tuning has pretty much been a straightforward thing where we're changing jets. And most people don't realize, but back in the day, distributors, what made tuners, we would take distributors and recurve them to match camshaft profiles, which means you don't get a distributor out of the box. We'd have a recurving machine that would sit there, and no, I'm not the oldest guy in the world. I'm 57 now, but this is what tuning really was in the day, where we would worry more about, port volume and long runner lengths to gain speed. And, if we even wanted to get into, electronic ignition, which kind of took over, but some of us still ran back in the day. It's not like I haven't tuned a million sets of, dual point distributors, and we're setting, hence why we had, meters for doing all that stuff. But now with the Holly, it's me getting into tuning electronically. So right now what we're doing is we're going back to old school. We're going to break out the old timing light. I'm going to put you guys down and we're going to see a good start with this. You get my first start, because with this car, once I heat it up, it's impossible for me to stick my hands in here and try to work on this mess that I designed. Just to give you an idea, Frankenstein. So I ripped its head off and shoved all this crap in here. Like I said, these are my feed lines. We have return lines. This is a return fuel style system. It's got an A1000 pump in the back. Feeding this remote mount turbos. Maybe we'll get into that. It's twin turbocharged. It's got 50 hot and 60 cold side turbos. T3, T4, basically. And they're fed up individually from the backs, so they run down both sides and come up. They feed individually into these pipes. That's why we have a balanced tube in between to keep the pressures even across both sides of the engine. This manifold does have a lower plenum, so your tuning is going to be a little easier because you have a common plenum. But don't think because you have a common plenum you still have 8 50mm throttle bodies opening at the same time, that you're still not. This car is tuned in Alpha N right now. In Alpha N, it's basically the old school way of tuning. We're tuning in pounds per hour, and we're tuning in Alpha N, which means working only off throttle position. By working off throttle position, if I tune this as a turbocharged car, it would be super rich when I ran it normally. So we have to have, in Holly, we call ICFs, which in mine would be, I guess I would be an AICF, or advanced individual configuration files, laid in for when the car goes under boost. So we have our straight table, which is programmed in, like I said, Alpha N, which is monitoring throttle position, which is giving me a good tune when I'm at idle and when I'm just daily street cruising. And then when I get into this thing under any boost, it immediately clicks over into an ICF. I got 3 individual config files. One's controlling the car under boost, one's controlling the timing under boost, one is controlling the target air fuel ratio under boost. Okay, tools today are going to be fun because I never got to use one of these in a while. It's called a Unison. Nice to have my toolbox on. What now? Just to get into it. Was a mechanic working on cars for a long time, and I had a guy from an aluminum company whose car I worked on asked me if I was interested in being a mechanic at their place, working on big machinery in their factories, because I knew electronics and all that. And I am now the master mechanic of 3 plants that are there, and I get to play around all day and do kind of more shit that I like, rather than sitting there troubleshooting BMW, Mercedes, and Audi's bullshit problems. We'll leave it at that. So, toolbox is home. It's like awesome that I have all my tools from 45 years of work. I've been a mechanic for 45 years, an auto mechanic, truck mechanic. So let's do this. What are we running? 14 minutes, guys? All right. Let's get this off here and put you up here.